Ladies and gentlemen, there is a Colorado state representative by the name of Lori Saine, and she made the claim that Black people and white people were lynched in nearly equal numbers because of political affiliation. That is false. And I have a website up that's going to debunk what she said. No one in this country was lynched more than Black men. Okay, so let's go ahead and listen to this story.
A Colorado state lawmaker is not backing off the comments that she made at the Capitol during a time that Martin Luther King Jr. was being honored, talking about race in comments that suggested political affiliation was the reason for lynchings in this country.
She made the comments on the House floor on Friday, but posted video of it on her Facebook page yesterday at the same time Denver's parade was taking place. Political reporter Marshall Zellner spent the last 24 hours trying to talk with Lori Saine about her comments. Marshall.
And I'm still trying to talk with her. There was little notice to her comments publicly on the House floor on Friday. I found out about them yesterday after she posted the video on her Facebook page. Every year, the legislature honors Martin Luther King Jr. And this year, during that resolution, Saine said this.
Colleagues, we are standing in the moral arc of history today as we celebrate a reverend that changed history for all Americans. We have come a long way on that arc since the Reconstruction, when whites and blacks alike were in nearly equal numbers lynched for the crime of being Republican.
That comment is completely absurd and off base. We know our history, and if you don't, we need to re-educate you, because that is just simply not the case. Lynchings happen in this country because of race.
In a text this morning, Saine promised a statement about her comments. I hadn't asked her any questions yet, so I let her know she was going to provide a statement. My question was, does she stand by her comment that African Americans were lynched because of political affiliation and not race? She did not address that in the statement I got in the last half hour. Coming up on Next tonight, Saine also took exception with who was and was not allowed to sponsor the resolution for Martin Luther King, saying in her Facebook post, it's always more convenient to stay silent. I'm still sorting through what she means by that and the complaint about who could and couldn't do this. So far, the video I have access to does not support her claim. Tommy Kim.
And that's what we're trying to find out is the context and the root of this, where this came from, and what she actually did mean by it.
There's a lot of he said, she said that I'm dealing with at the Capitol right now, with lawmakers telling me things on the phone that were third parties to this. I haven't heard from the sources themselves. And if we want to clear this up, the easiest way to do that is to hear directly from them, taking our questions and some questions we've seen on social media. So I am making this public plea to Representative Lori Saine and the other representative she's implicating, Perry Buck. Let's talk. Call us back. Let's have a conversation.
You're right. All that hearsay doesn't do any good.
All right. Thanks,
Okay.
Marshall. Keep an eye on that.
Okay, you heard what she said, right? All right, so now let's get down to the real history, ladies and gentlemen, of lynchings in America. There has never been anybody lynched more in this country than Black people. And, Black women, children, but mainly our men were the victims of lynching due to racial tension that spread throughout the United States. We've been, they always trying to pin everything on the South. There were lynchings right here in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and they're in the North. And those were the number one states for lynching in the North. So let's get into this, the history of lynchings, because nobody ain't going to sit there and, in this case, stand there as a state representative and lie about these things. There's a lot of attempts to make a false equivalence as if it exists. So if it doesn't exist, then they'll fabricate it and try to make it exist. It just doesn't fly. Throughout the late 19th century, racial tensions grew throughout the United States. More of this tension was noticeable in the southern parts of the United States. In the South, people were blaming their financial problems on the newly freed slaves that lived around them. Lynchings were becoming a popular way of resolving some of the anger that whites had in relations to freed Blacks. From 1882 to 1968, 4,743 lynchings occurred in the United States. Of these people were lynched, 3,446 were Black. The Blacks lynched accounted for 72.7% of the people lynched. These numbers seem large, but it is known that not all of the lynchings were ever recorded. So, ladies and gentlemen, there were far more lynchings than what they reported. These are just the ones they reported. There were tons of lynchings never ever reported at all. So you could probably double or even quadruple this number, because in this country, everything is undercounted. And you can best believe these lynchings were undercounted too. So they're admitting that there were lynchings never ever recorded. So now, out of 4,743 people lynched, only 1,297 white people were lynched. So her statement that there was an equal number of Blacks and whites lynched in this country is a bold-faced lie. And the fact that she's trying to say people were lynched based on political party affiliation, another lie. So what did they do? Walk up to Black people and say, "Are you a Republican?" If they said yes, they got lynched? That didn't happen. Didn't happen. That is only 27.3%. Many of the whites were lynched for helping the Black or being anti-lynching, and even for domestic crimes. So they didn't even kill white people for being Republicans at all. Was lynching necessary? To many people, it was not. But to the whites in the late 19th century, it served a purpose. Yeah, because they weren't the ones getting lynched primarily. So of course, of course, they're going to see it differently. Whites started lynching because they felt it was necessary to protect white women. And we know white women are the biggest liars when it comes down to rape. And they always use that white woman as an excuse to commit crimes against Black people. And they still do it to this day. Nothing has changed. We still have stories coming out all the time of these white women lying about rape. And in some cases, they even apprehend Black men and drag them through a trial and everything. And we already seen the evidence of their lies, because many of the men that are exonerated been in jail for 20, 30, and 40 years. In many cases, they were in there for rape. And then come to find out no rape ever happened. That is what we see all the time. We don't see all these rapes that you're claiming. And all those rapes weren't going on back then either. We do not see a high number of Black men raping white women. We don't see that. It didn't happen in the past or present. But they continue to lie about these things over and over. That is their way of trying to get to a Black man. Whites started to lynch because they felt it was necessary to protect white women. Rape, though, was not a great factor in reasoning behind the lynching. It was the third greatest cause of lynching, behind homicides and other causes. So they always use this white women in order to attack and kill Black people. Most of the lynchings that took place happened in the South. A big reason for this was the end of the Civil War. Once blacks were given their freedom, many people felt that freed blacks were getting away with too much freedom and felt they needed to be controlled. And don't they still feel that way about us? Look, on YouTube, they try to control what we say on our channels. If they don't like what you say, they come to troll you. They still feel like they got the right to control what we do. Mississippi had the highest lynchings from 1882 to 1968 with 581. Georgia was second with 531, and Texas was third with 493. 79% of the lynchings happened in the South. Of the lynchings that did not take place in the South, mainly in the West, were normally lynchings of whites, not blacks. Most of the lynchings in the West came from the lynching of either murderers or cattle thieves. So again, where's the political affiliation that people were dying? So even the white people that were lynched didn't die for political reasons. Get out of here. There was really no political link to the lynchings of blacks in the South and whites in the West. So what is this woman from Colorado is saying? She's trying to make it political. And ladies and gentlemen, the reason why she's doing that is to take the heat off of her people for all the lynchings. Oh, it wasn't about race. It was about Republicans. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And just like it says here, and I wholeheartedly agree, there is no political link in any of those lynchings. None. Zero. Not all states did lynch people. Some states did not lynch a white or a black person. Alaska, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Connecticut were these few states that had no lynchings between 1882 and 1968. Although some states did have lynchings, some of them did not lynch any blacks. Arizona, Idaho, Maine, Nevada, South Dakota, Vermont, and Wisconsin were some states that did not lynch any blacks to record. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, there are many unrecorded lynchings. Quite a few states did, in fact, lynch more whites than blacks. In the West, these were greater numbers of whites, was due to political reasons, not racial tensions. Well, why would a white person lynch another white person for for racial tensions? Okay. So now they're saying now that they kind of contradicted themselves here because they said earlier no political lynchings of black. Well, that was the South. Never mind. That was the South. This is the West. California, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska, New Mexico, North Dakota, Omaha, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming lynch more whites than blacks. It is sad to think that we look at other countries and deem them immoral for killing their own people, but we overlook the fact that of what happened in the late 1890s to the 1960s. Oh, Americans know they kill their own people. They just don't want to recognize the fact that they're killers and have been killing for centuries in this country. Okay, so they always want to put on a pair of blinders when it comes down to their own killing. But when it's some other nation, oh, they're killing their own people. That's why I don't even listen to these folks. When they talk like that, I don't listen to them. They have no room to be talking about killing anywhere on this planet. this is something that we cannot overlook and do not need to try to overlook it. All right. So this woman, her name is Lori Saine of Colorado, is being very disingenuous. She's a straight up liar. You know, that's why they can't get her for comment, because she knows she's lying. You can easily go into the history and debunk what she said. Very easy. You know, they act like this information can't be found. It can be found. But please tell me what you think of this state rep that tried to make the claim that just as many whites were lynched in this country as blacks, but the history does not show that at all. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.